What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about my 2-year review of the Whoop strap. We're on the Whoop 4.0. When I started this channel, it was still the 3.0. You're going to talk about what my dislikes are and some dislikes that I've gotten feedback from, what I love about it, and then the biggest surprise is what we'll end with of how it's actually changed my outlook in my physical and mental health, which is the reason why for the past 2 years, this thing has barely left my wrist. If you're new to the channel, my name is Wes Henderson. I got a background in biochemistry and intellectual property law. I did patent law for quite a bit, and I'm using all my knowledge of research and writing and the deductions and logic and reasoning or whatever of how I review things and bring it to you on this channel. So if you like this review, I've got a bunch of other videos. Hit that like button. Support me by subscribing to the channel. And there's also support links, including Whoop. I am affiliated with Whoop, but they don't in any way ever tell me when to post videos, what to say in those videos. And it's just in my best interest to you, the audience, to find the best products. And that's why I'm sharing with you, because we're going to start out with the bad things, because this is far from perfect. So let's get started. The bad subscription models. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I wish I could just do one payment up front and own a product forever and use of that product. But guess what? Not only is Whoop something that will never get away from this monthly subscription, but also other companies like Apple are moving towards these more consumption models. And the reason being recurring, predictable, and ongoing revenue. The rationale, I believe, with Whoop is that because you're using their cloud storage database and there's constant interaction, that's exactly kind of the service we're paying for. There is some positives to that. So because I don't have to pay $499 up front for something like an Apple Watch, it is a low barrier to entry for some people that may not have the cash on hand. So you like, if you use my link in the description, or I'll post it down in the comments, you get a free month. And that helps you get the device in your hands sooner without a lot of money out of pocket. And there's also other different memberships that you can get. Like, you can get discounts if you pay ahead of time, which is what I do. The minimal payments I can make. I don't like recurring revenue. I just want to own a product. So I hate it. And that's my biggest dislike with the product. But again, there's positives. Like when the 4.0 came out, you just get the device. You don't have to pay anything else. So it was just sent to me automatically when the device was ready to go. Unlike the Apple Watch, where again, if you bought a model 2 years old and you want to buy another one, you just got to buy the, everything up front from the beginning. So I hate it. That's my biggest thing. And we're going to talk about a couple other things that don't really bother me, but the biggest comments that I've gotten back for people, accuracy being questionable. I did a whole bunch of videos breaking down the different elements of the Whoop strap, like the strain score, caloric burn, recovery scores, and things like that. So we're not going to go too in depth in this video, but I'll put the playlist below if you want to go more into that, including a video I did on accuracy where annoyingly I wore a Whoop strap, a Apple Watch, a Garmin, some of the kind of like the big three, I would say right now, as well as what I would call the standard, a Polar H10, which is an ECG monitor rather than these PPG monitors on our wrist, which is kind of an indirect review and data point for our heart rates, because it's measuring like the blood perfusions in our skin rather than a Polar H10 chest strap, which is an ECG monitor that is getting measurements from the electrical impulses directly from our heart. So using that as a standard, did a whole bunch of comparisons, and they're all good enough. Like, people make their own kind of assumptions on whether something is inaccurate or accurate. But I would say wrist-worn fitness devices are just all good enough. I didn't really see anything, and even some of the studies show that one isn't so much better on the other on your wrist. Like, if you want the most accurate, you got to wear a chest strap, which most of us don't want to, because it's really uncomfortable and kind of just a pain. And you're just not something you're going to wear all day, every day. So as far as accuracy and kind of that feedback, based on the research that I've done and the videos that you can go watch, it's good enough. The other one is no screen. Now, for me, it's a positive because I'm been doing whatever I can to limit screen time. And the biggest change in my life that I did with that was to get rid of social media for a variety of reasons. One, I read the book 4 Hour Work Week, and it's just like, just limit distractions if you want to do other things like side hustles, like creating this, trying to write a book, focusing on other work, and doing a lot more reading. And the one thing that I also do, again, is limit screens. So not having screens on my wrist, wearing more traditional watches and moving to that and have an affinity for these kind of watches kind of helped me mentally, which we'll talk about as a big surprise later on. So some people don't like it. They wish they could just wear one thing like an Apple Watch that it does it all, or at least at minimum tells time. I see it more as a bracelet than a watch. So for me, not that big of a problem, but it is a bad thing. So I've even seen some people wear an Apple Watch on one wrist and a Whoop strap on the other. They teach their own. That seems like a lot of tech to be wearing around, but that is a big downfall. The other thing you can do is this device does come in a bicep strap. You can buy that. That way you wear it up here. And I wore it for quite some time, but now that I have tattoos, based on my readings, I worry about the ink and how it affects heart rate reviews. So I just wear it on my wrist, and I've been wearing it for so long that it doesn't really bother me. Let's talk about the good. On the wrist charging. If I reach over here, my biggest gripe is when I travel and I was an Apple Watch user, you got packed the Apple Watch charger, and the battery would last like maybe a day. I don't know why, and I've seen patents out there for the Apple Watch for ongoing charging, but it hasn't made its way to market. I think there's a lot of sacrifice for the fact that because the Apple Watch does so many of these different things, you're just going to have to deal with taking it off the wrist and charging. But then there's the sleep tracking that they're trying to do. And one of the things that they say is just take it off, put it on the charger while you're in the shower. So you're constantly trying to have to take it off, find different times to charge it when you don't want to track anything. And to me, that's not ideal for something that's a 24/7 tracker, where the more data you give it, the more accurate it becomes. So all these missing data points where the Apple Watch uses algorithms to fit in. Now they all do it to an extent. Like if the Whoop is moving around on the wrist for some reason or can't get a good reading, then there are algorithms that it have to kind of like fit in the missing data so that it has continuous data streams to constantly evaluate and update the different scores. But one of the things is not having to take it off to charge it, because the thing slips right on. Do this at night a lot of times, and it's about every 3 to 5 days or so. Sometimes different things affect the use of it and the battery life, but that right there, and now it's charging on my wrist and it's still feeding data to my device. Best thing ever. Haven't seen any sort of device come close to it. I love it. And then with the 4.0, the old one, the 3.0 battery pack, always forgot to take it off in the shower. You'd ruin it. This one's waterproof. I love it. Take it off because I'm 100% charged right now, or close to it. Don't need it. HRV and strain metrics as the premier. I'm actually going to reach down here and pull up my phone and share with you, kind of, if you're not familiar, you get these different scores here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. So like today, based on my recovery score. So recovery is affected by a lot of different metrics based on your sleep, based on previous day, cardiovascular strain, caloric burn, and just a whole number of things. And I love it. I have a dedicated video to this. So again, I'm not going to go too far in depth, but looking at my recovery score and seeing it day to day and changing my habits to optimize my recovery score. So here's like a 1 week outlook as much as possible. For whatever reason, I think getting back into the routine after the holidays, the 27th and the 29th, just in the red. So like Monday, I went to the gym, went really hard after not doing it for quite some time. So my body just bounced back, but slowly working back to staying in the green. Green means good, if you don't know, as much as possible, whether that's through stretching afterwards, getting frequent massages, going for longer walks. There's just a variety of things. And there's a journal that you can do every single day when you fill out and you wake up. It asks you a number of questions. And then you get a monthly report that you can go through and see how, when I do this, it seems to lower my recovery or raise my recovery. And then the cardiovascular strain, I'm at a 4.5, usually wake up around 4. This has a lot to do with just your cardiovascular strain health. And this was the biggest change to my focus, I think, when actually doing physical activities. Is I used to be kind of like that screw cardio kind of guy. Now I put myself through the paces on different things. Like I've done a marathon before. And when I was done with that, I said, screw it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to eat a lot and get big. People that do a lot of bodybuilding tend not to get a large strain score because they're not actually putting themselves through a lot of cardiovascular strain, getting their heart rate close to max as much as possible, or in more of a healthy way, because you don't want to max out your heart rate all the time. And you could still be susceptible to things like cardiovascular disease, which is the number one killer I talk about in a lot of my videos every single year, more than a lot of the other things combined. Again, I've done videos specific on strain. You can go to that. But focusing on my cardiovascular strain and getting it high through metabolic conditioning, through anaerobic, through aerobic exercises, long distance running, and just being overall healthy. And what it's led to for me in my life is I could do things like go climb a mountain without doing any training. And training specific to climbing a mountain. Just being able to be physically ready to go, or playing sports and just having a very pliable body where I'm not susceptible to certain injuries just because I'm constantly doing things and putting my body under the right stress. And the thing with cardiovascular strain is what drives me nuts is our bodies haven't evolved at the rate that what the Industrial Revolution did for us, which has made us really kind of a stagnant population, which has led to obesity because we're eating more calories. And you would think the more calories we eat, the more energy we would have to expend and the more active we would be. But of course, it's the opposite. People are being less mobile and cardiovascular disease is on the rise. There's kids under 18 that are having heart attacks nowadays. So steps, okay, it's a good metric to get you out the door and moving, but it's not the end all be all. The 10,000 steps actually came from a Japanese pedometer company that just arbitrarily said, hey, hit 10,000 steps. There's Harvard studies out there that say anything over 7,000 or so. Of course, there's a whole bunch of variety, but on average, about 7,000 steps is enough. And they get into even more specific to how many steps, because 10,000 is just arbitrary. But if you're someone that doesn't do anything, 10,000 steps is a good metric. For Apple, the move calories, again, it's kind of similar to the 10,000 steps, getting those active calories burned. First of all, accuracy in calories, not something I really focus on. You can do something like a total daily energy expenditure calculator to go figure out what your current caloric needs are. So if you're doing a cut, you'd want to eat about 500 calories under that. Or if you're trying to gain muscle, you can, of course, bulk and eat over that. Clean diets. But measuring and adjusting your diet based on the calorie expenditure on your devices, they've been shown, all of them, even the most accurate wrist-worn ones, as off as 70%, which is ridiculous. So a lot of people who are trying to alter their behavior based on the caloric expenditure aren't losing weight. Guess what? You're either depending too much on the caloric tracker to adjust your diet, or you just aren't logging your meals correctly. So either of those seem to be a couple things that are very notable when people aren't losing weight. So the move calorie thing for me, it's good. Again, it gets you moving. You want to fill that ring. You can adjust it, but it also doesn't really focus. Everyone focuses so much on filling their rings, then they miss the recovery side. You don't need to be, completely horizontal on days of recovery. Like for me, a recovery day would be going for a light jog, walking, hiking, still staying active, getting my heart rate up. I'm just not really putting as much stress on my muscles and my joints and my body as I would on days where I'm actually working out. So strain for me, much better metric than move calories, steps, and any of the other devices that I've seen. Sleep and recovery focus, again, like I talked about that. I used to be someone prior to getting the device that I just didn't think I needed sleep. Through a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, I've mentioned on this channel multiple times, you need sleep. There's only a very, very tiny percent of the population that has some sort of genetic code in them, some sort of identified gene. And I talk about it in one of my videos that you can get away with needing less sleep. I'm not that person. You're not that person. There's billions of people on YouTube, so maybe there's a chance that someone watching it has it. But for the most part, I'm going to say you need 6+ hours of sleep, and focusing on that with the Whoop strap in combination with my other favorite device, the 8 sleep mattress that I have. I've got videos on that as well. Has completely changed my life. It's made me more productive. It's made my recovery much better, which is then related to more activity. Mental health is much better when you get better sleep. Diets are better. People with less sleep tend to eat like crap. It's kind of like the less sleep you have is equated to the inhibitions and the lack of judgment you have when you're drunk. So people with less sleep eat like crap, make worse decisions, and it's related to a whole bunch of different things and productivity levels and just overall better quality of life. So focusing on that, make sure I'm hitting sleep goals. And I love this. I will show you. Let me pull this back up and go to my sleep. I'm still not perfect at it, but I definitely try as much as possible to get as much sleep as possible. So I pulled this back up, and this is my sleep. The green is going to be what I need based on strain, and then, of course, this blue is where I actually slept, and it's pretty accurate. The good thing that I also about Whoop is like activity I don't put in manually. It detects it, as well as sleep, it detects it, and it's pretty accurate. Maybe some minor tweaks every now and then, but I mean, they're few and far between. So my overall sleep performance is 82%. And then hitting 6.5+ hours of sleep. And the crazy thing was when my friends and I went and climbed Mount Hood, we got like no sleep. And then the Whoop was like, hey, you need 13+ hours of sleep. And we didn't set alarms or anything. I went to bed and I got like exactly that. This device knew exactly how much I needed, and I hit that nail on the head to feel better. So let's go into the biggest surprises. I did a video specifically on this, so you can go check that out, and it's mental health. Your body has a lot of things like increased cortisol when your body's stressed out, and it doesn't have to be physical stress. It can be mental stress that affects your sleep, for example, or just your overall recovery. You've got your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems, and all these chemicals in your body for any variety of reasons, because it's a safety mechanism when you're feeling stressed, can affect your heart rate, your HRV, your heart rate variability. Video on that as well, which is the miracle metric in my opinion. And so I'll do everything right. I'll be recovering, doing all my normal routine, but because my mental health isn't there, then it'll still show that my recovery score is low, which is incredible. And it's happened a couple times. One, through a bad breakup, and number two, when my dad unfortunately passed away unexpectedly last year. I actually took the device off, so I don't have perfect recovery scores streak, because I was like, I know I'm in the red. I took it off for a couple days, but then I told myself, no, you idiot. This is the reason why you wear a device like this. Just because you don't see the data doesn't mean it's still the truth. Like, facts don't care about feelings. I personally live my life by that. I would rather know the truth rather than to avoid it. So in this case, ignorance wasn't bliss. I put the device back on, and I got my butt back in the gym during my dad's whole thing much sooner than I otherwise would, because life goes on and you got to take care of yourself. So with all the things I had going on related to that, like things like funeral, taking care of the estate, I needed to be as healthy as I possibly could in a situation like that to take care of my family and take care of everybody around me. And I've made certain adjustments. I've started journaling. I've tried things like therapy. And the more I do it, the more mentally healthy, focused things I do, the better my recovery score and the better my sleep is. You go to sleep with no worries in your mind, reducing stress as much as possible, and you just sleep like a baby. And that has a lot of credit to the Whoop strap. And then lastly, we'll talk about alcohol. I used to love bourbon. Bourbon was my favorite. I've got generations of men in my family that seem to have just a calling to the Jim Beam distillery. And personally, like I love the taste of it. Love Maker's Mark, any, bourbon style whiskey. It's not good for your heart. No alcohol is, in fact. When you drink alcohol, your body, it's a poison. Your body's trying to expel it and it's doing whatever it can. That's why you just don't feel good the day after you drink it. But I don't recommend it. Like, the idea would be to avoid it if you want to be as healthy as possible. But I'm an adult and I like an adult soda every now and then. So it allowed me to toy with different alcohols to see what had the minimal impact. On occasions where I would go out and have a few drinks, what gives me minimal impact on my body where I can have a good time, enjoy life, because that's what it's all about, right? We're being healthy, and then every now and then reward ourselves in ways such as me eating an entire pizza or having a few drinks. So it showed me things like my body. I'm good with red wines. I'm good with seltzers. I'm good with ciders. I'm good with vodka, tequila. Stay away from tequila. There's other reasons I shouldn't drink tequila. But it allowed me to just test the waters and see what my body seemed to process with the most limited damage to it as possible. So that was a huge surprise that I didn't expect when I got the device. And going all the way back, one thing that I missed was, why did I buy the device in the first place? What got me to be like, hey, maybe I should test this out and get away from my Apple Watch? Well, the woman I was dating at the time, it was during the pandemic, and we had just gotten tested, and it was just like, hey, you can go back to find this video. I think it was, it's 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. And it's my first unboxing, and I'm talking about it. And it was actually an article on Whoop, because they watched the video and posted about it, that we had just gotten tested, and it was like, no, we're good. But there are certain things, like it tracks like your respiratory rate, and she had an elevated respiratory rate, and it's like, hey, I think I should get tested again. We had just gotten tested the day before. Why should we go back and check again? And so she did, and guess what? Then tested positive. So we didn't have it at the time, but the early indicator, and this has happened before. I've gotten the flu since I've had it and felt completely fine. This actually happened fairly recently, where I woke up and felt completely fine and had red, and I was like, oh, that's weird. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I can afford taking an extra rest day this week, so I won't. And then later that night, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt pretty crappy and ended up having the flu. And the early indication before I went out and exposed anybody to my sickness was the Whoop strap. So that was another biggest surprise, and it's a good early indicator of things that may be going wrong in your body that you just aren't aware of. Our bodies have this ability to mask certain things that we're going through because it is fight or flight. It's a very protective mechanism. Back in the day when we're running in the jungle away from predators, you can't afford to sit there and be like, I got a bit of a cold. Your body's got to mask it, try to make you feel better, even though physically you actually aren't, because you've got to survive. It's just a survival mechanism. So those are the big things. Like, again, just to recap, bad. Subscription model. Don't like it. Wish I could just do one price and have it forever. For some, not having a screen, you're going to have to wear another device or another watch. For me, not a big problem, because I do love my Omega Speedmaster Professional. And accuracy, it's good enough. People that have like their anecdotal and their beliefs that just because they are used to a certain device telling them a certain thing, that this one's wrong. I don't get it personally. Done enough studies, read enough things. There are some cool videos out there on YouTube that do some in-depth studying. They're good enough. Okay? Let's relax. And for good, on the wrist charging, HRV and strain, premier metrics, absolutely love it. Heart rate variability, again, if you want more in-depth and stuff, there's a playlist that I'll put in the description, and the sleep and recovery focus. Just, yes, you do want to get after it at the gym, but let's do it in the, let's work smarter, not harder. The more we recover, the more we actually can come out ahead with our physical fitness. And the biggest surprise is mental health is just unbelievable. I think a lot of people don't practice a lot. And then my changing habits of alcohol. And I actually do. I drink much, much less. I'm someone that just, I legitimately drink socially, and I try to limit it to about once a month, except for like holidays. I went back home where I grew up in St. Louis and had some friends and drank definitely more. And I felt it after a period of time. So again, if you like this video, hit that like button. That's 2 years with Whoop. I do more of this podcast style format videos. To me, I love more conversational and let things flow and just discuss. And yeah, hit that subscribe button. Again, if you want to try out Whoop, you can, and support the channel. Would appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.